Children lost, ensnared by a witch's binding spell. Jessamine, the awakened soul, yearns to escape and find a new home. Dare you join her and explore more?
Alright, so let's get into this video talking about the slit-mouthed woman. Now, I debated on whether I was going to even do this video because honestly it is really, really dark and I can't really show you a lot of the pictures of her because it's like too much for YouTube, you know what I mean? So for a lot of this, you're going to have to use your imagination and I can probably show you some like drawings of her, but that's as far as it's going to go. Obviously, after this, you can do your own research and look at the actual scary images of her face. Okay, so her backstory is actually very sad. Before she became this very creepy creature, she was just a regular woman. As the story goes, a beautiful woman named Kujisaki was married to a man who suspected her of being unfaithful. Now, the thing was, her husband was correct. She had actually fallen for another man and was planning on leaving her husband. So he flew into a jealous rage and took a huge pair of scissors and gave her a large permanent smile on her face. He then said,
"Who will think you're pretty now?"
But when he was done, he felt so bad about what he did that he died from the guilt. So now it is said that she hides in plain sight. And because looks are very important to her, she's actually able to disguise her disfigured face as a normal face. She appears as an attractive woman with long black hair wearing a simple beige trench coat. But more recently in this legend, it describes her as wearing a surgical mask over her face, which is actually not an uncommon accessory to wear in Japan. Even like before everything that's happened in the past year, like this was a common thing to wear for like decades. So thanks to her innocent appearance, the slit-mouthed woman is able to blend in until she selects her prey. Now, when she comes up to you, she's going to ask you a very serious question. She'll find you when you least expect her to be there, and like I said, she's going to have a surgical mask over her face. So at first she appears like a normal looking woman. She waits in the shadows until you pass her by, and before you can react, she is in front of you, blocking your path. Holding a huge pair of scissors in her hands, she asks you, "Am I pretty?" But before you can answer, she slides down her mask to reveal her terrifying huge smile. And as she grins, she says,
"Am I pretty now?"
So what would your answer be? Apparently, if you say yes or try to scream, she will make your face look exactly like hers. It also says that running is absolutely no use because she's scary fast, like unnaturally fast. That if you begin to run, she will appear in front of you and do the same thing. Now, if you say no to her question, apparently she will leave you alone for now. She will let you walk home, go into your house, and think everything will be okay. But later on, while you're sleeping, she will reappear to get you. So a lot of people are saying, well, how do you get away from her? Because if you say yes, you're in trouble, and if you say no, you're in trouble. Apparently, there is a way to outwit her. Some people claim that they know how to escape the slit-mouthed woman. They say that one way to survive is to distract her. When she asks you the question, "Am I pretty?" if you offer her money or candy, you will confuse her. And it says you might buy yourself just enough time to run. There is also another way to outwit her. So when she asks you, "Am I pretty?" instead of saying yes or no, it says you could respond by saying, "You're okay. You're kind of so-so." So you're kind of giving her a middle answer and she's not really sure what to do with that. Another thing you can say to her is flip the question and be like, "Am I pretty?" And as she pauses to consider if you're pretty, you have a chance to run away. So it's all about outwitting her, distracting her, and flipping her question back to her. Now, what's so creepy about the slit-mouthed woman is that people have been talking about her since the 1600s, which is insane. Apparently, she was terrorizing people back then. So many people were afraid of her, and then suddenly she disappeared for hundreds of years and then came back in the 1970s. Children claimed to see her everywhere around Nagasaki, Japan. There were warnings everywhere, police were out trying to find her, but they never did. According to one urban legend, a young boy named John was walking home from school one day when the slit-mouthed woman appeared in front of him and asked her eternal question, "Do you think I am pretty?" Now, petrified, obviously, John tried to run away, but she ran after him, grabbed him, and bent his neck. John was a strong boy and didn't die right away. The police arrived and ferried him to the hospital. Now, everyone thought he was going to survive, but apparently, as he was lying in his hospital bed, all the doctors and police and nurses were asking him what happened. Suddenly, his eyes opened wide, and out of fear, he croaked,
The slit-mouthed woman.
and then he died right there. There was also another legend about a businessman who was walking home from a bar one night. He spotted this beautiful woman sitting alone wearing a surgical mask. They chatted for a while, and then the woman told him that they should go somewhere private. She led him to an alleyway, and when he moved in for a kiss, she stopped to ask him a question. "Do you think I am beautiful?" He answered yes, and the woman slid down her mask to reveal her horrible wide smile. And then I'm sure you can imagine what happened to him next. Alright, so let's get into today's video talking about Teke Teke. So first, let's talk about what vengeful spirits are, because that is what Teke Teke is. Vengeful spirits have been a part of Japanese folklore for an incredibly long time, dating back as far as 8 AD. These are tales that are passed on from generation to generation, from parents to kids, and these spirits and stories often have a very important moral to them, usually meaning don't be mean or your soul will get eaten. Now, there are two different origin stories for Teke Teke. The first one actually dates back to before World War II, while the other one seems to come from around 1957 or so. The spirit herself is actually classified as a Onryo. I'm saying that so wrong, I'm so sorry. Which is a ghost who only exists to rain down hatred upon those unfortunate to cross their path. These ghosts are often women who have been wronged, and after their death, their anger and passion left them tethered to this world on a never-ending quest to seek vengeance against those who forced them into the afterlife. So now that you know that she's a very vengeful spirit, let's talk about her two different origin stories. Just a PSA, these stories are quite disturbing, so if you don't like hearing about stuff like that, maybe this ain't the video for you. The first story allegedly occurred in post-war occupied Japan, where this woman was attacked by a soldier and was thrown onto the railway tracks. Then a passing train split her in two, separating her legs and her torso. Now, it was so cold outside when this happened that all of her wounds actually froze over and stopped her from bleeding, and that's what helped her to stay alive. Luckily, her screams actually alerted one of the railway attendants, and when he ran over to see what was going on, instead of going to help her, he was so shocked and disturbed by what he saw, I mean, the state she was in just left him baffled, that he covered her with a plastic bag and just left her there to die. Now, this version of the legend was actually made into a horror movie in 2009, and apparently this is the version that most people are familiar with. Then we have story number 2. The second story is told of a young Japanese schoolgirl who was afraid of her own shadow. She was often ridiculed by fellow classmates for her lack of courage, and she was constantly the victim of their cruel jokes. But one day, one of these pranks turned fatal, and the legend of Teke Teke would be born. While waiting for a train one day after school, the girl's friends decided to have a little fun at her expense and dropped a cicada bug onto her shoulder. But what should have been a simple case of giving her a nasty fright turned deadly after she panicked at the sight of the creature and fell onto the tracks, just as the Shinkansen train barreled through the station, splitting her in two. Now, whichever of these two stories of Teke Teke that you choose to believe, both end in a very sad and violent death that spawns this spirit who is bent on getting vengeance. Now, there is this creepy story of a teenager who met her. It was 10 p.m. and a teenager named Satoshi was heading home after cram school had kicked out. On his way, he looked up at an abandoned building he was passing and noticed a very beautiful young girl sat looking out of one of the windows at him. Their eyes locked and they exchanged smiles at each other before the girl asked him,
Where are my legs?
Confused and not understanding the question, Satoshi responded, "I'm sorry, I don't know." The girl suddenly sprang from her perch, and it was then that Satoshi saw that she was only a torso. Shocked, stunned, and paralyzed by fear, Satoshi could not move as the girl crawled towards him. She was only using her arms and elbows, making a teki-teki sound as she got closer. And when she reached him, she split him in two. The sound she makes, however, that haunting noise that gives her her name, is due to her using her overgrown fingernails to drag her torso towards whoever is now the subject of her rage. So then at the end of my research, I found a warning. According to this legend, 3 days after you hear this story, you will see the ghost of a woman who was only a torso. The ghost will try to catch you, and escape is impossible even in a car. The ghost can crawl at a speed of 150 kilometers per hour. Some say this ghost is just searching for her missing legs. Another version of the story suggests that the legend was designed to deter people from bullying or abusing or assaulting others. So the moral of the story is, be kind to others. And don't worry, she's not coming after you. I researched this story over a week ago, and I'm still here. 3 days have long gone by. I've never believed in that type of stuff with stories when it says, like, you have 7 days to live. There's gonna be a girl on your ceiling tonight. I have read all of those stories. I've had all of those chain mails, and I'm still here. You're gonna be fine. Alright guys, so let's talk about this 8-foot woman. Now her full name is Hachi Sakusama. I hope I'm saying that right, I really did try. But she is also known as the Japanese Slender Man. Many people who have seen her say she looks just like him, which is horrifying. Now she's supposed to be a spirit who has taken the form of a very tall woman. But one of the most bizarre things is that she's said to have this deep, low, masculine voice. And she's constantly repeating the word po over and over again. But like I said, in a deep, low, rattling voice like
Po, 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 po.
which is kind of scary. She apparently goes after children that are specific.
What are the negatives of using AI to revise?
AI cannot perfectly replicate the conditions and constraints of a physical exam.
So where should I revise online?
BBC Bitesize uses a range of practice materials and is aligned with UK exam boards.
Where could good exam results take me? I'd like to thank me, myself, and I.
Don't rely on AI summaries. Revise on BBC Bitesize.
Specifically between the ages of 9 and 11 years old. So if you're watching this video and you are in that age group, watch out. I'm just kidding. Please don't go and tell your parents that the 8-foot woman is coming for you. I want them to like me. Okay, so the first fact about her is that she is 244 centimeters tall, aka 8 feet tall. Imagine being a little kid looking outside your home when you see a 244 centimeter tall woman staring back at you through your bedroom window on the 2nd floor. I mean, 8 feet tall is rare to be. Like, not many people in the world have reached that height. The tallest person to ever live was a man named Robert Wadlow. People actually called him the Giant of Illinois. He was 8 foot 11, guys. That's crazy. So he was just slightly taller than Hachi Sakusama. I also looked up how tall Slender Man is just to see how she compares, and he's apparently 15 feet tall. So I think he wins in the height department. It also just really gives me the creeps just thinking about seeing a woman's face in my bedroom window on the 2nd floor. That would destroy me. The second creepy fact about her is that she makes a terrifying sound when close, like I just mentioned. Her deep, manly, terrifying voice comes in threes. She says
Po, po, po.
over and over again. This noise indicates to her victims that she's coming for them, and there's not much they can do about it. Hachi Sakusama takes her time with her victims. She is known to stalk them for weeks or even months before making a move. You could potentially hear this noise outside your window, at the playground, at your parents' home, or anywhere else that Hachi Sakusama wants to make her presence known. This part of it is actually kind of similar to Slender Man. People say he has the Slender Man effect, which only occurs when he's near somebody. And even though the Slender effect is much more violent as it causes victims to become disoriented and nauseated, these two creatures both give a warning when near. So I guess, at least they warn you. The next thing is that she preys upon children. Now, Slender Man has been said to prey upon children and adults, but apparently this 8-foot-tall woman only chooses children most of the time. The reason for this is unknown, but it is believed that she only kidnaps young children because she feeds off their young essence, which may be why she looks like a young woman at times. Another creepy thing is that she can mimic your loved one. There's this story about a boy who came in contact with her. He ran and told his grandparents, and they were terrified because they had heard of her legend before. So they tried to take the proper steps to get their grandson away from this spirit, but she kept appearing outside of his bedroom door, outside of his window, and she would actually mimic the voice of his grandparents to try and get him to let her in. If the boy had done so, he would have been kidnapped by her and never seen again. Now, the next day he told his grandparents that he heard their voices outside of his door, and they said it wasn't them. They swore to him that it was not their voices, so the whole thing is just creepy. This is apparently a true story about this boy, so I really hope not. The next thing is that you are destined to die after seeing her. So most people know that Slender Man makes his presence known to you once you begin to look into his existence. Like a quick search on the internet and you can find yourself falling down a rabbit hole of images and videos that sear his presence into your mind. And this is how he chooses his victims and claims you for his fate. However, Hachisaku-sama picks her victims at random as long as they are children, like I said. Like if you're a child in Japan, you are fair game for her to come and get you. It says if she sets her sights on you, kiss your parents goodbye because she's going to come for you. And make sure to listen for her signature sound.
Po, po, po.
Not the Teletubby. Not the Teletubby. Now, you'll know it's her because she's wearing this long white dress, and it's really interesting how she's wearing formal clothing, and so is Slender Man. It's like a formal clothing creature thing. She also has long black hair, so people say she kind of looks like the Grudge or like Samara from The Ring, and most of it actually blocks her face, so you can't really see what she looks like. She also wears a hat in many of her depictions, and apparently she looks very beautiful, and that's what entices people to go near her or follow her. Now, apparently there is a way to get rid of her if she is following you. To put an end to her stalking, the victim has to sit in a secluded room where newspapers block the outside view from all windows. 4 bowls of salt are placed in each corner, and the victim must stay in the room for an entire night. They say that in the morning, the 4 bowls of salt should be turned black, and that's your indication that she was trying to get into the room that you were in, but the salt was like blocking her. So once the salt is black, you know that her stalking has been stopped, but it does say the victim must leave Japan and never return unless he or she is willing to fall victim to her persistent evil. So that's great to know. At least there's somewhat of a way to get rid of her, but you have to leave your entire life behind, which is never really fun. Alright guys, so let's get into today's video talking about Japanese urban legends. If I say any of these names incorrectly, I'm so sorry. I'm terrible at pronouncing things. Please forgive me. So first we have the Noh masks. Masks are an essential element of the centuries-old tradition of Noh theater, signifying to the audience many aspects of the wearer's character. While they obviously hide the actor's expressions, they're carefully carved to catch the stage light and change expression depending on the angle of the mask's shadow. Now, Noh masks are actually supposed to be supernatural in some way, and apart from the fact that a lot of them are really creepy looking, the mask can both represent a smiling face and a sad face, depending on which angle you look at it, like I said. When kept in the house, the masks are said to draw in negative energy from the owners till they get completely consumed by the mask itself, and their soul trapped in a different dimension of pain. So there's literally warnings everywhere saying that only professionals should wear these masks because the evil energy residing inside of them causes the mask to create an evil entity of its own, and careless wearers will have their soul sucked from the body. So yeah, that's pretty spooky. Next we have Hitobashira, which means human pillar. Now there actually is some truth to this part. The human pillars in Japan are literally just that, pillars that have humans trapped inside of them. The popular myth was that pillars with humans trapped inside them would bless the construction of the building and hold it firm. But most places that are built with these human pillars are said to be haunted because the souls trapped inside them are not very happy about it. But apparently when I read more about this, it's not just about people inside pillars themselves. It's also when people are buried alive or near a construction site. So like large-scale buildings, dams, bridges, castles. So basically whenever someone is buried alive when a building is being made, it's supposed to be a prayer to the gods so the building is not destroyed by natural disasters such as floods or by enemy attacks. Tobashira could also refer to workers who were accidentally injured and buried during construction. Now here are some real life examples of buildings that were made under these circumstances. First we have Meruoka Castle. When this place was first being built, the stone wall of the castle kept collapsing no matter how many times it was piled up. So the builders decided that they should make someone a human sacrifice. They found this one-eyed woman. Her name was Oshizu, and she had 2 children. She lived a very poor life, but she was selected to be the Hitobashira. She agreed to do this on one condition, and that was that one of her children could be made a samurai. They agreed, and she was buried under the central pillar of the castle keep. But they did not keep their word, and her son was not made a samurai. So her spirit felt resentful and made the moat overflow with spring rain. People actually called it the rain caused by the tears of Oshizu's sorrow, and they erected a small tomb to soothe her spirit. And then we have Matsu Castle. According to legend, the Matsu Castle is also said to have been constructed on a human sacrifice that was buried under the castle's stone walls. Her name has never been recorded, and nothing concerning her is remembered except that she is thought to have been a beautiful young maiden who was fond of dancing and is referred to as the Maiden of Matsu. After the castle was built, a law was passed forbidding any girl to dance in the streets of Matsu because the hill would shudder and the castle would shake from top to bottom. So I had never heard of any of this in my entire life, and it's actually really sad but intriguing to hear about. Then we have Kune Kune. Kune Kune is a legend in which a distant apparition seen on rice or barley fields on hot summer days wiggles as if moved by a strong gust of wind even on windless days. Now when people see this and they look more closely, you can see that it's squirming and bending from left to right, and apparently the movements are supposed to be really impressive, like crazy angles that the human body would not be able to make. It is claimed that anyone who tries to get a closer look at it is driven insane or dies when touching it. Now there are several different reasons why people might see something like this, and we're thinking like logically about it, such as the Japanese camps have scary scarecrows which end up generating other stories. Another possibility is dehydration and heat stroke that can result from the hottest days. But this is still a really eerie thing to hear about. And then lastly we have a story called The Girl in the Gap. You know that small gap between your dresser and the wall, or between your bed and the floor? Apparently you should not look in there, because if you see a pair of eyes staring back at you, you're in trouble. I was so freaked out when I was reading this because there are gaps like everywhere in people's houses, dark corners that we see all the time and don't think much about. Japanese superstition holds that a spirit lives between the gaps of things like furniture and slightly open doors. And if you lock eyes with the girl in the gap, it will ask you to play hide and seek. But apparently while you're playing hide and seek, if you were to see the eyes in the gap one more time, she will grab you and take you down under to the scary place, if you know what I mean. So I was reading a lot of stories about people who have actually seen this girl in the gap, and I'm debating on making like a vlog video talking about all of those separate stories because they are so creepy. And honestly, after I did research for this video, I was like avoiding looking in like cracks in my dresser and like under my bed and like indoors. Like it affects me. This apparition apparition is known as Rokurokubi. I hope I'm saying that right. I'm probably not. When do I ever say anything right? Also known as the long neck lady or the women with floating heads. Interesting, right? By the way, I don't think I've ever worn hoop earrings literally ever. I cannot tell if they suit me or not, but I thought I'd try them today. I got them for my birthday and I like them, but I'm trying to decide if I like them on me. What do you guys think? Anyways, we're gonna just jump right into today's video. I know I do a lot of talking at the beginning of my videos because I have just so much to tell you guys all the time, but we're just gonna dive in. We're diving. So like I said, Rokurokubi is a Japanese apparition, and they actually look almost completely human aside from a few differences during the day, and they typically present themselves as female when they are seen. So you could be walking through the streets, or you could have a friend or a relative that you literally have no idea is this creature behind the scenes. And then at night, their neck stretches and their head begins to wander and flies around freely. Sometimes their head is completely detached from the neck and it goes exploring as far as it pleases. Now, some people think that this was just a legend created to scare people into staying inside their houses after midnight. It encourages kids to come home at curfew. It stops people from wandering the streets all hours of the morning. So is it a legend or is it true? What's interesting is that some of these creatures are self-aware and they do know that they are creepy apparitions, but there are a few who still believe they are human. They remain unaware of what happens to their bodies at night and think they are just having nightmares about their necks and heads wandering off. It's like a creepy ghost that does not realize it's a creepy ghost. It's like the Sixth Sense all over again. But most of them know, and they do take advantage of that. They are known as pranksters. They love to frighten people. They love to cause trouble. They also like to scare small animals, which is horrible. They like to knock things over in your house. They also love knocking over oil lamps to drink the oil. They expose themselves when oil began disappearing from the home at a rapid rate. So if you have like a lot of oil lamps and stuff hanging around and suddenly they go missing, you better get out of your house fast. To keep their existence more secretive, Rokurokubi make a point to appear in front of drunk people who are usually too intoxicated to remember, and then the next day they can't give like a credible testimony to what they saw. There's this one story about a man who realized that his wife was one of these apparitions and he tried to cure her by feeding her the liver of his dog. Now this actually did fix her. She became fully human again, but the thing was, she had already passed on her curse to her daughter. Well, the young girl became this creepy apparition the next evening, and the dog appeared as a ghost and bit the head off of the Rokurokubi, killing it instantly. So things just did not work out very well for this family at all. In an extremely creepy tale, an entire village of Rokurokubi is discovered, and every villager wears a scarf around their neck to hide their scars, even the children. So like literally it was found out that hundreds of people, well, they weren't people, they were these creatures, were living in a town trying to be unseen, covering their necks from people. Now there's another version of this creature. They're called the Nukakubi, and they're known for drinking human blood. They are said to be more violent than their long-necked cousins. The Nukakubi reportedly attack humans and drink their blood like vampires. Now sometimes their thirst for blood can be quenched by drinking from animals, and occasionally they just literally go up to their victims and bite them. Like they don't even have to always drink their blood. Now to kill a Nukakubi, one must move the body to a safe place where the head cannot find it. And this is for particularly the ones whose head completely detaches from the body. When it flies back to try and reattach itself, you're supposed to move the body somewhere that they cannot locate it. However, it's really difficult when a family member discovers that another one of their family members is actually this creepy apparition. It's obviously really hard to kill them. It is also said that if this creature's neck is still attached to their body and maybe it's just like gone for miles and miles, you can literally just take an axe and just chop it off if you want to destroy it, which is obviously horrible to think about. Now, apparently living people can become Rokurokubi if they are cursed. According to the legend, the curse can happen for a multitude of different reasons. For example, a woman can become one after she is cursed for being unfaithful to her husband. And what's so messed up is that if a man commits a sin, he can actually transfer his curse onto a woman that he knows. So like if a husband does something wrong, he could be like, you know what, let's put the curse on my wife because she's a female. And then if a woman is cursed, she could actually pass it along to her daughter, like it goes through the bloodline. Here are some ways that you can identify a Rokurokubi. Since they look exactly like humans and some even believe that they are too, identifying them can be quite difficult. But according to the legend, there are some ways that you can tell. Stretch marks along people's necks can appear during the day. So if you're looking at someone and they have like these horrible like red lines going up and down their neck that look like stretch marks, that is apparently one sign. And because of those stretch marks, a lot of these apparitions like to wear turtlenecks and scarves around their neck to cover up these marks. So if you know someone who's constantly wearing a turtleneck, who constantly has a scarf on, that could be a sign. Others wear several layers of clothing to distract people from their strange necks. And some people, unfortunately, have literally watched a family member take a nap on the couch or something, and then suddenly their head like detaches from their body and floats around. That's like an obvious sign that you know. There was a story about this mother who was sleeping beside her daughter at night, and when she woke up, she saw the daughter's neck like winding off her body out of the bedroom, down the hallway, down into the kitchen. Like she literally had to get up and follow the trail of her daughter's neck. So that's super creepy. So the first Japanese urban legend is called Ohaguro Batari, and I know I'm not going to say these right, so please forgive me, but the translation for this name is nothing but blackened teeth. Late at night, a disturbing spirit dressed in beautiful wedding clothes can be seen loitering near temples and shrines. She basically calls single men over to her, and they're seldom able to resist her charms, until of course they get too close to her. From behind, an Ohaguro Batari looks like a beautiful woman wearing a kimono. Sometimes she'll even appear as a man's wife because they'll only see the back of her head. So she's concealing her face away from her viewers until they get super close. When the man comes to get a better look, he's surprised when she turns to reveal her face, which is an ugly, white, featureless dome slathered in thick makeup containing nothing but a huge, gaping mouth full of blackened teeth. And then as he's looking at her super shocked, she starts laughing at him, cackling in his face, sending the man running away in terror. They are essentially shape-shifting pranksters looking to have a laugh at the expense of an unwitting human. It has also been suggested that they are the ghosts of ugly women who were unable to marry. Now, eyewitness accounts are really hard to come by due to the embarrassment of the victims having fallen for this prank. So when this happens to men, they usually won't tell anyone because they feel silly for falling for the trick. But luckily, no deaths or injuries have been reported from this. It's literally just a prank that this spirit puts on people. I found a creepy story about a man that was working at a convenience store late at night, and as he was standing at the register, he began hearing this strange whimpering noise coming from somewhere in his store. He thought maybe it was a stray dog at first, but when he looked at his security cameras, he saw a woman hunched over in one of the aisles. Her shoulders were shaking just like she was crying, so of course he hurried over to try and find her. And before he got too close to her, he stood there, he asked her if she was alright, but she didn't answer him, she just kept whimpering. So eventually he slowly placed his hand on her shoulder, and she spun around to reveal a large smiling mouth with black teeth, and she had not been crying, she was actually laughing at him. She began to point at his horrified face while she cackled, and then she got up and ran out of the store. He called the police, but when he showed them the footage, it was blurry, it was pixelated, but they could distinctly make out a large black smudge on this woman's distorted face. And obviously the man knew that that was where her large black smile had been, but police did not believe the man, and they told him she was probably wearing a black face mask over her mouth. And yeah, that's how these stories always end, right? The victim is never believed. There's actually a similar urban legend. This one is called the Naporabo, and these don't have a smiling mouth, they just have a completely blank face. Naporabo resemble ordinary human beings in almost every way and blend in perfectly with human society. However, when you meet this thing, it can literally pull off its face. So they have face at all, their heads are blank orbs with no eyes, nose, mouth, or features of any kind. These mysterious spirits are encountered on quiet, empty roads late at night when nobody else is around. And their main goal as well is to scare humans. And they do this remarkably well, obviously. Noparabo usually appear in the guise of a man or a woman with his or her back turned towards the observer. And then when approached, the spirit turns around and reveals its terrifying true form. And to maximize the effect, they often appear with a face at first, and then they wipe their face off dramatically with their hand at the most opportune time. And they just revel in the terror that they cause to these people. And they'll often work together as a group to scare one individual. So as their victim runs away from the first Noparabo, he'll run into another person who he thinks is a regular, normal human being, and that person will be like, oh my gosh, what's wrong? Are you okay? And once the victim starts to explain what he had just seen and what he had just went through, the stranger he's talking to will be like, oh, you mean like this? And they'll pull off their face. And it goes on and on like this. The poor victim will keep running. He'll run into another human and be like, oh my gosh, help me, I just saw this. And the stranger will be like, oh, you mean like this? And will pull off their face again. So it's all these spirits working together to continue scaring this one victim. Sometimes the victim will even get home and finally think he's safe. He'll go to his wife and be like, thank goodness I'm finally home. You won't believe what I went through. And his wife will turn to him and be like, oh, you mean like this? And we'll take off her face. So yeah, I almost think this one's scarier because it's kind of like never ending, like you can't escape them. But alright guys, so without further ado, let's talk about the Two-Mouthed Woman. The Two-Mouthed Woman is a Japanese urban legend about a woman who is cursed with having two mouths. One normal mouth at the front and another hidden monstrous mouth in the back of her head beneath her hair. So this woman's skull literally splits apart, revealing lips, creepy teeth, a tongue, and although she appears to never eat, the mouth at the back of her head is constantly ravenous. It is constantly consuming large amounts of food. They say that this big mouth almost has like a mind of its own, and it always speaks to this woman, mumbling spiteful and threatening things to her. The mouth will harass the woman and threaten her, demanding food always. It will screech obscenely and cause the woman tremendous pain until it is fed. This monstrous mouth can also control the woman's hair, making it snake out like tentacles, grabbing food and shoveling it down its throat. So they say that if you're a family that is experiencing your food suddenly going missing or lower in stock, well, there are women in your house that don't appear to be eating. It is said that one of those women probably have a mouth on the back of their head and you don't know it, because it is said that they appear like they're regular women until their secret is revealed. It is said that they are the result of curses brought out by wicked deeds. It's like a punishment put upon a greedy man or woman for wickedness. So let's talk about our first creepy story where this person experienced a two-mouthed woman, and this one is called The Missing Rice. So this tale is from Japanese folklore, and it's about an old man who lived all by himself in a small village. He never got married because he hated spending money, and he just always had this thought that if he ever took a wife, he would constantly have to pay for her food, and he just could not part with the idea of having to spend his wealth all the time, which is like such a weird way of looking at it. So it so happened that he came across this young woman one day who he noticed did not eat a thing. He never ever saw her consuming food. So he of course immediately asked her to marry him. And because she seemed to never eat and seemed to be a very hard worker, this man was just so thrilled that he had found the woman of his dreams. And at first the couple was very, very happy together. However, he began to wonder why his bags of rice were steadily decreasing. So one day this old man pretended to leave for work, but instead stayed behind to spy on his new wife. To his horror, he saw his wife's hair part on the back of her head, her skull split wide open, revealing a gaping, deformed mouth. Her hair reached out like tentacles, grasping handfuls of rice and shoveling it into the monstrous mouth. And when this woman noticed that her husband discovered her secret, she attacked him and tried to strangle him with her hair. But he did manage to get away and went and hid in the mountains. And weeks later, when he worked up the courage to return to his house, he found that the woman had gone through all of his bags of rice, and every single ounce of food he ever owned was gone. And so the old man vowed to never marry again. And that's that first story. Okay, then we have a story called The Wicked Stepmother. In this story, there's a man whose wife unexpectedly died, leaving him with just one daughter to care for. While later on he remarried, but his wife was really cruel and vindictive, and together they had another child together who was his daughter. However, they were apparently very poor and didn't have a lot of food to go around, so this new wife decided to keep her own daughter fed while she starved the other girl, her stepdaughter. So this poor man's daughter eventually died of starvation. And not long afterwards, the man was out in the garden chopping wood for the fire, and he accidentally swung his axe incorrectly and embedded it in the back of his new wife's head. There was a lot of blood, and he obviously expected this new wife to die from the injury, but instead she somehow miraculously survived, and the wound never properly healed. Instead, it formed into a huge drooling mouth complete with teeth and a tongue. This woman was in tremendous pain, and the only way to make it stop was to constantly feed it. It demanded more and more food every day to keep it satisfied, and eventually this mouth even began making noises and talking on its own. And one day, while the woman was asleep, the hideous mouth spoke to her husband and confessed, saying, "I am cursed because I killed your daughter by starving her to death." This is a very creepy urban legend for sure. Alright guys, so without further ado, let's talk about the Spider Woman. According to a legend in Japan, when a Jorogumo spider turns 400 years old, it gains these magical powers and
Frontera. Whoa, so much space. Wow, it's electric. Whoa, great lights. Wow.
New Vauxhall Frontera Electric. Available now for £23,995.
From age 55, Angela can take a tax-free lump sum from her pension pot and make further withdrawals with a few clicks on the website. And PensionBee's drawdown calculator helps her better understand the tax she could pay on those withdrawals. Because at PensionBee, we believe that when your pension is in a good place, you're in a good place. PensionBee. Be pension confident.
begins to eat humans instead of insects. This spider is said to look exactly like a golden orb weaver in real life, and these spiders are very large, with females of the species growing up to 2.5 centimeters in body length. And guys, that is not including their legs, so that is crazy. And they weave these webs that are large enough to reach between 2 tree trunks. And the spider's habitat is basically everywhere in Japan, and sometimes they get so big that they can catch and eat small birds. And because of their large size and the meaning of their name, these Joro spiders became associated with supernatural events. And I'm so sorry I had to show real spider pictures at the beginning of this video. I hate looking at it too, trust me. I just had to show you what the real spider looks like in comparison to the legend. But I too am arachnophobic, so I completely understand if you're freaked out too. So the name of this creature is said to also mean woman spider or entangling bride. It changes its appearance into a beautiful woman to ask a samurai to marry her, and then she will entrap him to eat. However, her reflection will show her true spider form, so she stays away from mirrors or reflective surfaces so she doesn't get found out. Sometimes she will take the form of a young woman holding a crying baby in need of help, and when a man walks up to assist her, she will hand them her baby, which turns turns out to be a giant egg sack filled with thousands of tiny baby spiders. And obviously those little spiders will attack the man. It is horrifying. Other times she will entice a man into a quiet shack and begin to play a biwa, which is a Japanese instrument. And while the victim was distracted by the sound of the instrument, she would bind him in spider silk threads in order to devour the unsuspecting person as her next meal. So basically, if she invites a man into her home, he is usually never seen again. And this creature can operate this way for years and years, even in the middle of a busy city. And the skeletons of hundreds of men are just building up into her home. There's like no furniture, it's just skeletons from floor to ceiling. What's really creepy is that this creature technically has three forms. She has her spider form, her complete human form, and then she has a mix of both. An upper body of a woman with legs of a spider protruding out from her back, and sometimes she has smaller fire-breathing spiders coming out from her legs. And yeah, it's quite a sight for sure. So I really wanted to talk about Joran Falls because the Jorogumo is often associated with locations of waterfalls. In particular, the Joran Falls of Izu have many legends about a spider woman who is the mistress of the waterfall. The original legend says that one day there was this man who was resting by the waterfall when he suddenly felt this sticky spider web clinging to his leg. So he pulled the spider web off of him and stuck it to a nearby tree stump. And the Jorogumo then quickly dragged the stump into the water. So if that was still attached to his leg, he would have been dragged into the water. After this event, the villagers avoided the falls. However, a woodcutter who was unaware of the story tried to cut trees in the area. He dropped his axe into the pool below the falls, and when he went to try and get his axe back, a woman appeared out of nowhere and gave it back to him. And she told him that he must not ever tell anybody what he saw. Well, unfortunately, he soon after forgot her words, and one day, after drinking too much, he spoke about his adventure and how he saw this woman by the falls. Well, after he fell asleep that night, his body was pulled outside of his house by this invisible string. And the next day, the villagers found his corpse floating in the water below the Joran Falls. There is a second version of this legend that talks about a woodcutter who actually fell in love with a woman who he met by the falls. He went to see her every day, but his body grew weaker with every single visit. And a priest of a local temple suspected that he was being enchanted by the Jorogumo, who people called the mistress of the falls. So on the man's next visit, the priest accompanied him, and when a spider's web wrapped around the woodcutter's leg, the priest let out this giant shout, and the threads suddenly vanished. So basically, the priest just saved this man's life. Well, despite knowing that the woman he loved was a Jorogumo, the woodcutter persisted, eventually wanting to marry her, but the people of his village refused to allow it, understandably. So the woodcutter ran to the Joran Falls, where he was entangled in spider silk and pulled beneath the water, gone forever. So because he still wanted to marry her and didn't listen to anyone around him, he eventually died by her hand, which is not surprising. So I don't know about you guys, but while I was doing research for this video, it really reminded me of the other mother from Coraline. Obviously, she is half woman, half spider creature on the bottom. So I really wonder if they were kind of inspired by this Japanese creature, because whenever I picture her, I picture the other mother, and obviously she is really creepy. Alright guys, let's get right into today's video. This creature is called, and I'm gonna try not to butcher it, the Gashadokuro. So this is a creature from Japanese folklore, like I said, and it literally means starving skeleton. It is 15 times larger than a human being, and this monster has supernatural powers including invisibility and invincibility. The legend goes that it was formed from piles of bones belonging belonging to people having died from famine or on the battlefield, and they are unable to move on to the afterlife because they died with such anger and pain in their hearts. And that energy remains long after the flesh has rotted from their bodies. And as their bodies decay, their anger ferments into a grudge against the living, which twists them into a supernatural force, which is this humongous skeletal monster. And it only comes alive if these dead have not been buried. It's in search of revenge and justice for these dishonored souls, and the spirit roams around the countryside after midnight. And when it moves, its teeth chatter loudly, and its bones rattle, and apparently it makes the sound gachi gachi. That's how it's written down as the sound that it makes. But they are not always noisy. If they should happen upon a human out late on the roads, the Gasha Dekaro will silently creep up and catch their victims. Its goal is to cut off the heads of solitary travelers to drink their blood. And people become aware that it's nearby if they feel a buzzing sensation in their ears. The first time this creature was ever depicted in art or paintings was in 1844. This piece was called Takayasha, the Witch and the Skeleton Spectre. And because of the large amount of bodies that is required to make a single one of these creatures, these abominations are much rarer to be seen than they were in the past. Because back in history, there were so many wars and famines and mass amount of people who were dying at once. So now that you know a bit about this creature, I wanted to tell you a creepy tale of a girl who saw one, and this one is called The Red Lights. It is so creepy. This story is about a girl that recently moved into a new apartment with her dad and had a room with a window that overlooked a beautiful forest that had a park and a walking trail. She thought it was so cool that she lived in a city but still had a beautiful view of the trees outside. However, the first night that she went to bed, she noticed these red lights coming through her window. It just lit up the room with this eerie crimson color, and she just assumed they were the glow of the street lights or a nearby store sign, so she grabbed an eye mask and was just able to sleep with that on. She didn't really think too much of it. But the next night she grew curious about this red light and walked up to her window, looked outside, and she realized it was not coming from street lights or stores, but instead coming from far off in the distance, hovering above the trees. There were actually two circles of bright red light. She thought that maybe it was a radio tower or something, so she got back into bed and fell asleep. But her nights got stranger and stranger. She began to notice that each night the lights were in different places. Sometimes they were a little bit closer and larger, sometimes they were farther away and super tiny, but they were always above the trees. She thought it must have been a very tall structure, but why was it moving? Then, one night, against her better judgment, she snuck out of her house to go investigate. She just really needed to know what the heck these lights were attached to. She walked for what felt like miles, and they were farther than she thought. And the closer she got, the higher up the lights got, until she was so deep in the forest that she couldn't see them anymore above the leaves. She came up to what looked to be a very old graveyard. The stones were cracked in half, there was graffiti all over them, and it looked like some of the graves had been dug up. She even thought she saw bones scattered around the dirt and tried not to pay close attention to those. And that's when she felt this immense buzzing in her ears. And she also heard this loud rattling sound somewhere in the forest. And as she looked around, this large gust of wind picked up, and the trees above her were literally parted in half. At first she thought that maybe this giant storm was coming, but when she looked up, she saw that a giant skeleton was peering down at her with two huge red eyes. And yeah, that's how this story ends. Could you imagine seeing this thing in real life? Like I said, when I first heard about Siren Head, just the immense proportion of that thing really freaked me out. So this is literally like a skeleton version of Siren Head, and I would just never ever want to meet this. There's a name for that fear where you're terrified of really large things. I don't remember what the name of it is though, but I have that.
In an enchanted realm, an oddity stirs, beckoning the curious. Meet Jesseline, once ensnared, now awakened, waiting to be yours.
being sold unfair car finance. I know I should claim, but who has the time? I mean, it could be a lot of hassle.
It doesn't have to be. Slater and Gordon will track down all your agreements, deal with your lenders, and get you what you're owed.
Is it really that simple?
Yes. One quick form will sort the rest.
Just go to slatergordon.tv to start your claim now.
They didn't take your tongue, kiddo.
A weird FaceTime bug allowed callers to eavesdrop on people they were calling, whether or not the person on the other end picked up the FaceTime call. So for example, let's say I was trying to FaceTime my sister Mandy and she wasn't picking up. The whole time it was calling her, I could actually hear the audio on her end of the phone, which is so creepy and it's totally invasive of people's privacy. So people complained about that pretty much straight away, and they fixed the bug, so it's not happening anymore. Don't worry. But imagine if you were like talking bad about somebody and they started FaceTiming you and they could hear your bad conversation. That's why you don't talk about people. Okay, so this next FaceTime glitch also really happened. It's where FaceTime would be taking secret pictures of you without you knowing. So what was happening was, while somebody was FaceTiming somebody else, a picture of themselves would just show up on the screen frozen, and it would be a picture that they didn't remember taking. For example, this is what some guy commented online. He said, "Just minutes ago when I called my girlfriend, I saw a picture of myself from today when I was at the office. I know it was from today because I had on the exact same shirt. The weirdest thing is that the picture is not stored on my iPhone." So I don't know, it was like the iPhone was taking pictures of somebody without their permission and then showing it on the FaceTime app. It's all very confusing, but apparently they fixed the bug. This next thing I honestly find to be a little bit creepy. This is also true as well. They recently came out with FaceTime eye contact correction. So it's this setting on your FaceTime app. It adjusts your eyes so that it looks like you're making contact with the person that you're FaceTiming with. Because when you're FaceTiming somebody, you're looking at the screen and talking to them. You're not actually looking into the lens directly. So on their side of things, it doesn't look like you're looking directly at them. Does that make sense? So FaceTime came out with this eye correction that will fake your eyes and make it look like you're looking at the person. So it's like an eye warping feature that FaceTime will do to you. So let's say you're looking this way and not really paying attention to the person you're talking to. It'll fake your eyes to be looking at them. That's creepy. This next one is called the iPhone alarm glitch. When I first read this, it really freaked me out, and I'm gonna read it and then explain a bit more about it. So there was this girl who wrote an article online about her iPhone alarms acting very strangely. She would be going about her day, like going to work, going to family events, and an alarm would come up on her phone that she did not set herself. And the alarm would always have a message with it saying the most bizarre things that would relate to what she was doing at that time. For example, if she was sitting down at lunch eating her food, an alarm would suddenly pop up that would say, "Please finish your sandwich." Like it was an alarm that was always always a demand, depending on what she was doing. Another one was when she got home from work, she suddenly got an alarm that said you better lock your doors, which is definitely unsettling, and she just had no memory of making these alarms. There was a really creepy one that she got at 3 a.m. exactly that went off and said, you better hide. No. So this post was obviously meant to be some sort of scary story or creepypasta. I highly doubt it was like a real thing. But after reading that, my alarm went off the next morning and I like jumped right out of my skin. I've actually had a weird alarm go off before at 3 a.m. I think that was about a year or two ago. It was quite a while ago. But I was sleeping peacefully and the alarm suddenly went off. I totally jumped and freaked out, and it was set at 3 a.m. and I definitely did not set that alarm. Unless I did it by accident somehow, I guess that's a possibility. But it hasn't happened since. So that's good. This next one is a Google Map glitch. So this glitch happened in Colorado specifically. There were 100 drivers heading to the Denver airport and suddenly there was a crash on the road. So usually if you're following Google Maps, it will send you on a detour. But the glitch was that the detour Google was sending these 100 cars was to nowhere. Something messed up on Google Maps and it led all of these people to a dead-end road in the middle of nowhere. It says that cars began sliding down the narrow dirt road, which had turned into a muddy mess. Some cars got stuck, causing another traffic jam, and the drivers found themselves in an empty field with no other route options because it was a dead-end road. How scary is that? People were missing their flights, people were enraged. Obviously, Google found out about this and they couldn't understand what went wrong because that road that led to nowhere wasn't even near the airport. It was like Google Maps just like took over by itself. But 100 cars went on this road to nowhere. The last two we're talking about are also Google Map glitches. So this next one was a glitch where Google Maps made everybody look like ghosts. Freaky! So there is a specific street in New York City, which I will show you, but if you go onto Google Maps, all of the cars, all of the people, all of the animals look see-through, like they look like ghosts. It says if you head to this Manhattan street, you'll find yourself staring at a near-invisible US food service truck driving down the road. You'll also see a bunch of ghost people walking across the streets. Now, this definitely freaked people out when they first saw it, but there is kind of a rational explanation. People are saying that Google Maps probably accidentally put two images on top of each other, so it makes people and cars look transparent when they're actually obviously not. It was just a weird glitchy bug that happened, and there's so many of these all over Google Maps that I could talk about for like hours. But let's talk about the last one in today's video, and it's where there was a Google Maps glitch that showed part of a UFO, and people were really freaking out. It says a Google Maps user reported a mysterious UFO sighting in the skies above a Florida swamp. The strange object is a little bit blurred, and what's so creepy is that this spot is just outside of the Bermuda Triangle, and I'm sure a lot of you guys know about the Bermuda Triangle. Basically, it's an area where a lot of bad things have happened. Shipwrecks, deaths, horrible things in this triangle, so that is where the UFO was seen. It says even when zoomed in, it's hard to tell what exactly the object is, but yes, I could see how it does look like a UFO. It's multicolored, slightly ovular, but you can't see the entire shape. Now, someone did bring up that it could have been a butterfly that quickly flew by the camera, and maybe that's just the butterfly's wing. There are usually some rational explanations that you can think of, but it would be cool if it was UFO. Or would it be? I don't know. Do we really want aliens around here? I'm not really sure. This glitch is called the Black Mirror glitch. Now, most people are familiar about the show Black Mirror, right? Even if you haven't watched it, you've probably heard people raving about it. It came out in 2011, and each episode basically shows the consequences of new technology. The show is almost a warning of what could actually happen to us in the future, like robots turning evil, cameras being put in people's eyes, social media taking over the world, which kind of like our world now. But it was a very disturbing show. Like, after I watched each episode, I'm always left with this strange feeling. But there was this glitch on Netflix that really freaked people out and apparently was unintentional by Netflix. So basically, people would be watching a completely different show or movie on Netflix. For example, Riverdale. Someone was watching an episode of Riverdale, and throughout the episode, this flash kept appearing on the screen. It would happen every few seconds. And the flash was so quick you could barely even notice it. But if you paused it at the exact right time, you could see that the flash was the logo for Black Mirror. I can actually put a little clip here of that happening to somebody. And people were really creeped out by this, especially because it was apparently unintentional. People thought, okay, is this like a weird type of advertising for their show? Is it supposed to be like subliminal messaging? Like, is it supposed to make us want to watch the show without us even realizing it? But it turns out it was just an accident. It was just a glitch on Netflix. But I feel like it was oddly appropriate that it was for the show Black Mirror, because that stuff happens there, you know? Alright, let's move on to the next very creepy thing, which is the Candle Cove mystery. Now, Candle Cove has been a subject of a creepypasta for many, many years. You guys may have heard of this before. Candle Cove was apparently this very unusual television show that a lot of people remember they watched when they were kids, but apparently it never existed. It's kind of like a Mandela effect, where 50% of people in the world remember Candle Cove being a real show, but if you look back in history, it was never a show that existed, but so many people remember it. It says the show is about a young girl named Janice who imagines herself to be friends with pirates, and the pirate characters are said to be portrayed by puppets. So it was apparently this creepy pirate puppet TV show. But a lot of people have recalled this show to be very disturbing and creepy. There was apparently a character in the show known as the Skin Taker. It was a skeleton pirate who wears clothing made out of children's skin. And there was apparently this one very disturbing episode where the Skin Taker was running after everybody and all the puppets were screaming and running around. But there are no external records of the show's existence. What's creepy though is that there are some parents out there who remember their kids watching this show. And all the parents say that whenever this show came on, it was just static on the screen, but the kids would sit there and watch the static. So it was like adults couldn't see what the episode was playing, but kids could. I don't know, the whole conspiracy is so creepy. You could make an entire video about Candle Cove, but the reason why it ties into this Netflix video is because not too long ago, a bunch of people claimed that for one day it was available on Netflix, and by the next day it was completely gone, which was very strange, and the people who watched it told their friends and family and no one believed them. But it's creepy how so many people came together and said, yes, it was literally just on Netflix. So let me know what you guys think about that. If you have anything else to add about Candle Cove, definitely comment it down below. I feel like I didn't delve in deep enough to really understand it, but if you want me to, I definitely could do more research about it. Okay, this next one is a Netflix creepypasta. It's called Never Share Your Netflix Password. It's about this girl who had to cancel her Netflix subscription because she couldn't afford it anymore. She went to work one day and a new employee was hired, and while she was in the staff room talking to this new employee, somehow Netflix was brought up and how she didn't have one anymore, and this new employee seemed really nice and told her that he would share his Netflix password with her so she would still be able to watch Netflix. So that night when she got off work, she logged into his Netflix, and when she entered the home page, there were no movies available except for one. It was under the continue watching section. Now, this movie had a very strange title. It was apparently called 1837491, and the thumbnail for this movie was just a black screen. So she clicked on the movie out of curiosity, and the only thing that played on the screen was this series of moving static. And in the background was this high-pitched noise that almost hurt her ears to listen to. And as much as this whole static movie creeped her out, she also seemed very drawn to it. And before she knew it, it was the next day. She didn't even remember falling asleep. She got up to get ready to work and she noticed that she left her TV on. And on the screen it said, "Are you still watching?" I'm sure we're all familiar with that phrase. She looked at the time where the video was paused and she had watched 10 hours of this random static. It totally creeped her out. She went to work to talk to this employee, but when she got there, her boss said this mysterious new employee had quit his job by the end of the day. And since that day, she never used anyone else's password ever again. I don't know if Netflix made this creepypasta to encourage people to buy their own accounts. Imagine it's all a conspiracy. Anyways though, that is pretty creepy. I don't know what it is about static and creepypastas, but seems very common. And the last thing I'm going to talk about is a very strange SpongeBob SquarePants episode. Now, there are rumors around that Netflix is going to be putting all of these SpongeBob seasons onto their platform very soon. Don't know if that's true or not, don't take my word for it. But because I recently heard this, I wanted to talk about a SpongeBob episode that really shocked people. There is an episode that came out called SpongeBob in Random Land. It's where SpongeBob and Squidward head to a sort of bizarre neighborhood where everything is supremely off. So it's kind of like an alternate dimension where everything is very strange. They're on a quest to deliver a customer's order, and they both encounter a bunch of very weird sights, including a series of doors with strange versions of themselves on the other side. So when they open a door, they see themselves portrayed in a different way. It's actually quite a deep episode. Now, a few years ago, there was this very creepy meme of Squidward that came out across the internet. This is what he looks like in a meme, and the whole story was that that was a lost episode of SpongeBob that was very dark and depressing. I actually can't even talk about what happens in that episode because YouTube guidelines, but it was a very creepy story about Squidward. Now, in this particular SpongeBob episode that came out recently, when Squidward yanks open a particular door, the meme version of himself creepily appears, along with some very eerie TV static. In response, Squidward yells out, "This place is a nightmare." So people couldn't believe that the SpongeBob team actually put Scary Squidward the meme into the actual show, and I think they actually had to take that part out of the episode because so many people were disturbed and upset by it. So I'm wondering which version they're gonna put onto Netflix. I have gotten my fair share of really scary Instagram DMs. Things like, "I see you, I know where you live, I'm looking at you through your window." And I ignore 99% of them because they're probably fake and seeking attention. But there was this time that someone actually took a picture of my house and sent it to me with the caption, "I found you." And that was probably one of the scarier Instagram DMs that I've gotten before. So with that, let's jump right in and talk about the creepy stuff on this platform. The first thing is a viral copy and paste story that was going around Instagram and freaking a lot of people out. People were putting a specific quote underneath all of their Instagram pictures that said, "I am Teresa Fidalgo, and if you don't post this on 20 other photos, I will sleep beside you forever." Now, Teresa Fidalgo is said to be a ghost girl. The legend goes that there was a car full of friends driving into the mountains when they pick up a hitchhiker that was standing on the road going by the name of Teresa Fidalgo. So they're driving in this car with an unknown girl, and suddenly she points out the window and says, "That's my grave over there." So they realize that she's just a spirit and they end up crashing their car. So people on Instagram have been told that they have to repost this story or she's gonna come into your bedroom at night and sleep beside you for the rest of your life. So this was going viral. Everyone was reposting this under their Instagram pictures. Obviously, it's fake and you should never believe copy and paste stories on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. If it's a copy and paste story, it's completely just gibberish. But the legend is still very creepy and I can see why it really spooked people on Instagram. Next, we have a creepypasta called Follow Me. It's about this 15-year-old girl who decided to create an Instagram account. She was super obsessed with getting followers, so she would browse through other users' accounts she would leave comments on their pictures like, please follow me back, follow for follow. And I mean, that's a common thing that people do all the time. One day, when she was looking for new followers, she came across this very strange profile. It was a man who took pictures of old creepy dolls, and he never showed his face in any of his photos. So as usual, she commented on his picture and said, follow for follow. An hour later, this mysterious man followed her Instagram account, and he commented on her most recent photo saying, I am following you. And whenever she would post a new photo each day, every single day he would continue to comment, I'm following you. She thought it was kind of weird, but she decided to just ignore it. She was just happier to have gained another follower. One night, when her parents were out of the house, a picture was sent to her through DMs. She opened the photo and realized it was a picture of herself sitting in bed. She heard footsteps approaching her bedroom, and suddenly the dark, creepy voice saying,
I'm following you.
And that's how the story ends. So basically it's meant to say that this man actually followed her in real life, which is super creepy. So hopefully no one takes follow me back literally. This next creepy thing is about a strange picture that somebody posted to Instagram. There was this guy who was completely flabbergasted and freaked out when his friend posted a picture of an old house that clearly has a ghost figure in the window. If you zoom up into the dark window, you can see the face getting closer and closer. It's super freaky to see. And what's even creepier is that the friend that posted this picture didn't even see the face in the window when they posted it. People have tried to debunk this photo with Photoshop, but no one has been able to yet, so who knows? Maybe this is actually real. And the last thing is about a very creepy Instagram glitch that people have been noticing and talking about. Of course, this is more of a creepypasta, but it's still kind of scary to hear. This creepypasta says that if you go onto Instagram at 3:47 a.m., every single person you look at will have black eyes in their photo. Apparently, this glitch only happens for a minute, so for literally 60 seconds, everyone's eyes on your Instagram feed will be completely black. Because this happens for such a short period of time at 3:47 in the morning, not a lot of people have seen this glitch. But those who have said it was pretty disturbing to see, especially when you're looking at your best friend smiling and she has like black eyes. Even if you go onto your own Instagram profile, all of your pictures will have that as well. They say that when this happens, you need to immediately log out of your Instagram until the sun comes up. If you don't, a black-eyed child may make their way into your house. It says if you log out successfully on time, you will be completely safe until the next day. So it's super creepy to think about, especially because I feel like I wake up in the middle of the night at random times and go on my phone. So if this ever happened to me, I would like throw my phone away and never use it again. So first, I'm gonna tell you a Skype creepypasta. This story is called Be Right Back. This is a story about a 17-year-old boy named Jake, and he was very lonely, didn't have very many friends in real life. He was just shy and didn't really feel comfortable going out of his way to talk to people, so he started to make friends on the internet. One day, he met this guy named Daniel, and they became very, very close friends. After talking for 6 months, they began to Skype almost every single day, and they would just have random conversations or play video games most of the time, but very strange things began to happen. One day, Daniel looked incredibly distraught when he joined the video call, and when Jake asked him what was wrong, he said that when he came home from school, the mirror in his bedroom was broken and the glass was all over his bedroom floor, and he had no idea how it happened. And the following week, things took a very, very dark turn. Daniel and Jake were having their usual Skype conversation when Daniel was suddenly called downstairs by his parents. So he said, "Be right back," and ran out of his room. So all Jake could see was his empty bedroom with band posters all over the wall and dirty laundry all over the floor. But suddenly he heard this strange rustling noise coming from somewhere in Daniel's room. At first, Jake thought that it must have been Daniel's dog somewhere that he couldn't see, but then he saw something that made his heart stop. A tall, pale, skinny man climbed out from under Daniel's bed, and Jake wondered how long he had been hiding there. Was he living in their house without them knowing? The man began to walk up to the laptop with a creepy grin and put a finger over his lips as if to tell Jake to stay quiet. Jake saw that in his other hand he was holding pieces of Daniel's broken mirror. That's when the call abruptly ended. And since that day, he didn't hear anything from Daniel for 2 months straight. Well, one day as he was sitting in his room, Jake got an unexpected text from Daniel. And the text said, "Wow, Jake, what a beautiful neighborhood you live in." Then he got another one that said, "Your house is very nice too, Jake." Then another one, "Oh, look, your front door is unlocked." And then, "What a cute little kitten you have, Jake. Coming up the stairs now." And lastly, "What a nice room you have, Jake." And that's how the story ends. So obviously, whatever person or entity or thing that was under Daniel's bed has now come over to Jake's house to, I guess, capture him or whatever else. I thought that was pretty creepy. I mean, webcams and video chatting in general can be kind of scary, especially like when your friend leaves the room and you're like looking into their empty bedroom. There are a lot of creepypastas about that kind of thing. So since we talked about Skype, let's now talk about Zoom. So Zoom was made back in 2011, but this must have been its most popular year, obviously with everyone staying home. And like I said before, I didn't even know Zoom existed until this past year, and now everyone uses it for meetings and school and talking with family, and I was able to find a couple creepy stories about it. But first, I want to mention this slightly creepy and funny thing that some people have been doing. So if you're using Zoom, you're actually able to put a custom background behind you, and people have been adding a pre-recorded video of themselves walking in on themselves zooming. So it's kind of creepy because the person you're talking to is just talking to you as normal, and then you see another them behind them walking around. So obviously it's a prank and it's a pretty genius one, but I can imagine everyone in that meeting would be super creeped out. Alright, let's talk about a Zoom creepypasta, and this one sounds kind of real, to be honest. This one is called The Midnight Invite. Did that rhyme? There's a story about a girl who used Zoom almost every single day for her work meetings. But after about 3 months of her using this application, she started to get a mysterious Zoom invite to her email right at midnight. So exactly when her clock hit 12 on the dot, she would hear a notification pop up on her phone. It says it was always titled Test-447-CU. And each day that she didn't join the meeting, the number in the title would go up by 1. And it says the email she received it from was called zoomtest-12@outlook.com. I'm pretty sure if it was a legit Zoom email, it would be at zoom.com maybe? She assumed it must have been some weird Zoom testing link that would test out her microphone and camera to make sure she was using the application correctly, but just in case, she did not want to click on the link because she did not want to get a virus on her brand new laptop. Well, after weeks of this happening, she noticed that on one particular night, the Zoom was titled something slightly different. This time it was titled Test-472-CU-Final Try. And this time her curiosity got the best of her and she clicked on the link and joined the meeting. All she could see on the other end of the call was a black glitchy screen and the sound of static. She asked if someone was there and got no response. So she waited a few more moments and began to feel incredibly uncomfortable. And just as she was about to exit the Zoom call, she heard a voice.
We have you now.
The voice was deep and sounded distant and warped.
Test complete.
And then the Zoom call ended. The girl was so confused and scared and frantically uninstalled Zoom from her computer, and she was barely able to sleep that night. The days following, her computer wasn't working very well. It was slow, glitchy, and just seemed off. And after a week, she finally took it into a computer store to be fixed. She was told it would take a few hours, so in the meantime, she went off to do some grocery shopping. After only about 30 minutes into her shopping, she got a call from the computer store, and they said,
Miss, we don't know how to tell you this, but someone has had access to your webcam for 6 days straight, and they're actually still watching. We're trying to get it fixed, but it's taking quite a while. They've done a pretty good job at taking over your entire life and your computer.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is why you don't click on sketchy email links. Especially if it's claiming to be like a specific large company. Don't click on it if you're unsure. Especially if you ever get like a Zoom invite or like some other video chatting invite from someone that you don't know. Don't risk it. But like I said, this does sound really real, right? I don't know if it is or not. And lastly, during my research, I found this creepy Zoom glitch. I was on this forum where someone was talking about how they were using Zoom, and after about 10 minutes, the application would constantly just shut down and restart. But just before it did, this creepy, glitchy, happy face would appear on the screen for half a second. And there were like 5 other comments on this specific post saying the same thing was happening to them. And I found it really odd because why a happy face and why was it shutting down? Was it some sort of like virus? I wasn't able to find any other information about it, so I'm thinking it could be fake or untrue. But how creepy would it be to be using like a video chatting service and suddenly you see this creepy happy face on your screen and then it shuts down? I don't know, guys, just be careful out there on the internet. It can be spooky, it can be strange. So the first glitch we're going to be talking about is the TikTok 3D brush filter. So this brush tool effect comes with several different options for you, but in the effect with the red and blue border, there are some really creepy images that are showing between the bands. The brush effect allows users to draw a 3D shape around them using AR. The effect adds a virtual 3D line that you draw with your finger on your phone screen. And like I said, there are several different effects to choose from, but the one we're going to be talking about today is the one with the red and blue border, because the other options on this specific filter doesn't have those creepy images in them. Now, a lot of people are saying that when you look between the 2 lines, you can see an abandoned building, and other people say that it looks like they're looking into a very dark and eerie room. So I'm going to show you some very strange examples. These are screenshots from actual TikToks that people have. Here's a screenshot from one video that has a girl looking at her driveway at night between the bands, almost like someone is stalking her. Another guy caught an image of what he thought were 3 people in a room. Others have seen a psychedelic painting on the wall. Other people have reported seeing dark tunnels between these bands. Another person saw someone crouched down in a corner with their hands over their face. Someone else saw someone wearing a plague mask in the photo. The whole thing about this TikTok filter is just very odd, and that's why so many people were freaking out about it and talking about it. Now, this was a big thing, I believe, back in September and October of 2020. So comment down below if you've ever tried this filter and tell me what you saw. I'm actually thinking of trying all these glitches and creepy things over on my vlog channel, so go subscribe there if you haven't, because we're going to be testing. The next creepy thing is called the creepy translation glitch, and this is actually a very recent glitch. I believe it happened at the beginning of January. TikTok user @WoNelly recently discovered the scariest thing she's seen on TikTok and posted about it in a now viral video. So apparently if you type re in a comment on a TikTok video and then press translate your comment, it translates to very ominous and strange things. For example, someone typed re, and it translated to, what is the purpose of life? What is this? The sound is the sound it cries out. So it's so weird how just typing ri translates to something so ominous. Here's another example. Another comment translated to, what is the purpose of the resurrection? Crying? What do you think? Cry. The mourners mourn. And honestly, it is so creepy. Like, if that doesn't creep you out, I don't know what will. And what's strange is that it doesn't always translate to something really creepy. There was one that said snoring, or Rihanna is now Rihanna. So sometimes it does translate to very silly things, but why does it sometimes translate to something more? Some are seeing them as spooky hidden messages from another plane of existence, warning us about the end of the world. But the most logical explanation that people are saying it is that there's just some weird thing going on with TikTok's translation system. Like, it seems like it's trying to auto-detect languages and it's not doing very well. It's just messing up the sentences. But why is it so creepy? Some are theorizing that it's attempting to translate from Maori, one of the endangered languages that are spoken by the indigenous tribe who live in New Zealand. Here are some more examples of strange translations that people found. One said, it's just a matter of time. It cries, it stands, it's over. This is the next level. Another one is, this is the true story. story. Then we have, which is the most important thing? This is the next full day. This is the second full day. Where is it? Like, these are just so strange. Then we have, this is the second time. Crying? What is the true meaning of life? It's all about you. Then there's one that says it cries out. Then the creepiest one, I think, is suffering, 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 suffering. It's all right. And this is literally just being translated from a bunch of different RI. Now, I did go on my phone the other day to try this out for myself, and I don't have the translate button anymore. I don't know if they took it away because this was happening, or if my phone's just really weird, or if I don't know how to do it, but I don't see a translate button anymore when I try, so let me know if you still can do it. And lastly, we have a creepypasta glitch, or at least I hope it's a creepypasta. It's called The Man with No Face. There's a creepy rumor about a man with no face lurking on the TikTok app. He apparently shows up to people who have been scrolling on the app for hours and hours, which relatable, honestly, but I haven't seen him yet. He apparently shows up in this black and white filter, and he's just standing in an empty room looking at the camera, not really moving or saying anything. People have said that his account name is just a mishmash of different letters and numbers, and after they see his blank face, he invades their dreams after they fall asleep. Now, I haven't heard any reports of him doing anything bad, which I guess is good. He apparently is always just standing in the background of your dreams, if that makes any sense. So whenever you're dreaming, you will like see him standing on the side of the road, or standing in a window, or like something in the background of your dream. So it says the warning is, be careful how long you're scrolling on TikTok, because the blank-faced man may appear to you. How has he not appeared to me yet? Because I'm on there for a while. Now, like I said, this is obviously a creepypasta, right? Unless someone has actually made an account with like a no-faced man. I feel like they're going to, now that this creepypasta is out there. Before I get right into the glitches, I wanted to talk about something kind of creepy that I found out about Walt Disney. There were so many articles talking about how he actually haunts one of his old apartments in Disney World. He kept an apartment over the fire station on Main Street, where he and his family would stay to enjoy the park, or where Walt himself would go to get some work done. People would often see his light on in his bedroom, which meant that Walt Disney was usually working at his desk, and people would just know that he was there when he was alive. Now, after his death in 1966, the apartment remained empty, but employees still went in to dust it. So the rumor is that no one else is allowed to use that room except for Walt Disney himself. So after he passed away, no one goes in there except to clean it. One night, a woman went up to the apartment and did her usual cleaning routine. She shut off the desk lamp in the room and went downstairs. But as she walked out of the building and down the street, she looked back and the light was back on again. So thinking that maybe she just had forgotten to turn it off and thought she did, she went back up into the apartment, shut off the light again, and went back downstairs. But again, she looked back and the light was on. Thinking there was a short in the lamp, she went back into the apartment, unplugged the lamp, and left. And as she was walking down Main Street, what do you think happened? The light flickered back on. She also saw the drapes of the apartment pull back as if someone was standing there watching her. Many employees have also claimed to have heard a voice saying, "Don't forget me, I'm still here." So now they just keep that lamp on in that apartment all night long, all day long. They never turn it off. Just to remind people that Walt Disney is still there in spirit and still loves and watches over the park. So I think that's kind of sweet. I don't know, this story makes me kind of sad. It's almost like Walt is just trapped, just watching people have fun at Disney World in hopes they won't forget him. And let me just tell you, Walt will never forget you. Alright, so let's talk about these Disney Plus glitches. Now, like I said, I love Disney Plus. This is not sponsored, by the way. I don't think they would sponsor a video of me like talking about creepy things on their app. My grandpa actually got Disney Plus for me and my sister for Christmas, I think 2 years ago now, so he like pays for the subscription. I love him. And whenever I'm craving a bit of nostalgia, I'll go on there and watch my favorite Disney movies from when I was a kid. Ty and I actually just recently binged all of the Star Wars movies over Christmas, and then the other day we watched the 2 Incredibles movies. I love those. Anyways, I stumbled across some pretty creepy glitches that people found while using this app, and they're a little bit out there, so prepare yourselves. This first one is called 12:15 a.m. There's a rumor that if you go onto Disney Plus late at night and search for the Frozen movie at exactly 12:15 a.m., for that minute only. Apparently, you'll see the ghostly image of Walt Disney's face appear on the screen. This apparently happens because he passed away on December 15th of 1966. So December is the 12th month, hence why it's at 12 o'clock, and 15 being the exact day that he passed. And everyone probably knows about that rumor that when he passed away, they froze his body. And that's why they say he appears over the Frozen movie on the app. I know it sounds crazy. I probably don't even have to tell you that obviously this glitch is not true. It's just a creepypasta that someone must have made up. Somehow people got the rather odd notion that Walt had himself frozen so that one day he could be brought back to life. Now, there's absolutely zero evidence to support this claim. Some fans also have this theory that the uber popular movie Frozen had an ulterior motive. And sure, Disney wanted it to become a box office hit, but the theory claims it served another purpose as well, which was to bury the ugly gossip of Walt Disney being frozen. People say that Disney always wants to protect its family-friendly brand. So a lot of their movies they take from the old, creepy, classic fairy tales like Pinocchio, Snow White, Cinderella, Little Mermaid. They all come from very evil, dark stories that they changed and made family-friendly, but they still kept the same name as those old fairy tales. Now, Frozen is actually based on a story by Hans Christian Andersen called The Snow Queen. So people wondered why they didn't just call the movie The Snow Queen. Many fans think Disney called the movie Frozen to divert attention from the Frozen rumor that had been circulating for decades by this point. So now when you Google search the words Frozen and Disney, all you get is page after page of Anna, Elsa, Olaf, and you no longer get the search results for that creepy rumor, because before the Frozen movie, that's all you would get. Even if it wasn't done intentionally, Disney successfully buried the speculation that had been swirling around Walt Disney's death. I'm actually glad they made the Frozen movie and called it Frozen, because I think that Frozen body rumor is ridiculous, and I'm glad it has been buried within the vaults of Google. Alright, the next Disney Plus glitch is called The Hidden Movie. Now, there are a lot of different rumors and creepypastas about hidden movies that appear on the app every so often. These are movies that people have never heard before, never seen before, movies that have such dark undertones that it definitely doesn't seem that it would be intentionally made by Disney. There was a story about these two girls who had the day off from school, so they decided to go on the app to watch a movie. Then they came across this random movie called Mickey's Endless Tunnel. So they clicked on it out of curiosity. It was a 13-minute short film showing Mickey standing at the opening of a huge dark tunnel. And then he looks directly at the camera as if to see the actual viewers. And he says,
"Come with me. Let's visit the Endless."
and the camera begins to follow him into the dark tunnel. And the next 12 minutes is just Mickey walking in front of the camera, whistling this unknown song and stepping in puddles. You can even hear the sound of like water dripping in the tunnel and this subtle noise of eerie wind blowing through. The girls were so freaked out, their parents ran in, had to turn it off, and when they reset the app and opened it again, it wasn't there.
Steve Bracknell here. Are you sick of changes that make to beautiful game? God, really, stop just the VAR. What is going on?
So for those of you watching and you're like, Jesse, I have no idea what Wordle is. First of all, where have you been? Even if you don't play it, have you not heard of it before? But I don't judge, and I'm gonna explain to you what this game is. Wordle has captured the attention of millions across the globe, and I feel like everyone I know plays it. It's constantly showing up on my Twitter feed and my Facebook feed, because basically everybody wants to see each other's scores. And I feel like even if you've never played, you've probably seen those gray, yellow, and green squares somewhere on your social media. Wordle is a daily word game that you can find on the New York Times website. It's fun, simple, like a crossword, and it can only be played once a day. And every 24 hours, there's a new word of the day, and it's up to you to figure out what it is. So you basically have 6 chances to guess the 5-letter word, and if you guess the right letter in the right spot, it turns green. A correct letter in the wrong spot will turn yellow, and a letter that isn't in the word at all will turn gray. Does that make sense? It was confusing for me at first too. Now, I only started playing about 4 weeks ago. I honestly held off for so long. Like, I was watching these like Wordle scores on my social media for probably 2 months, but then I started to get FOMO, and I kind of felt left out, and I was really curious to see what the hype was all about, so I tried it, and now I can't stop. It's actually quite scary. And I have this tradition of playing every night at midnight because that's when a new Wordle game is launched and I want to just play it right away because I'm crazy. And I've also never lost, and the best score that I got was guessing the word on the second try. If you play Wordle, comment down below what your best score was. Okay, so I was able to find a creepy story about a Wordle glitch, if you will. This story is called 3 a.m. Wordle because yes, everything has to happen at 3 a.m. This is a story about a guy that started playing Wordle a couple months ago on a daily basis like most of us, and he had this routine of waking up and going onto the website while he was eating his breakfast in the morning. Now, he did this for weeks and weeks and it sort of just became his normal. Well, one day he was offered a new position at his work, but if he accepted it, it would involve drastically changing his hours. So instead of working at 9 to 5 p.m., he would have to start work at 5 p.m. and end at 2 a.m. But because the pay was so much better, he accepted the offer. Because of his schedule change and sleep change, he began waking up in the afternoon, so his normal breakfast Wordle routine was kind of ruined. So he decided that when he got home from work around 3 a.m., he would play right before he went to sleep. Well, almost immediately, he noticed the winning words were a little bit strange and creepy. For example, the very first word when he played at 3 a.m. was dread. The second time he played, the word was caged. The third time he played, it was stuck. The fourth time, it was widow. The fifth time, it was being. The sixth time, it was ghost. And the seventh time, it was haunt. Those are a lot of scary words to get day after day. Usually Wordle is not that creepy. It actually has just random words that don't really emit any emotion. So after a week of getting all of these really strangely connected words, he decided to go to work and ask his co-workers what they thought. So the next day when he arrived, he asked around who played Wordle, and almost every single one of them raised their hand and said they did. And so casually, he was like,
Gosh, the words this past week have been pretty creepy, right?
but everyone just seemed really confused. And one of his co-workers said,
What's so scary about a beach?
so he found out that the group of them were getting completely different words than what his game was giving him. And he wondered if it was some kind of creepy glitch that only he was experiencing. That night, when he finally got to bed at 3 a.m., he pulled out his phone but was too afraid to play the game. And he had this really strange feeling that someone was watching him in his room. So instead, he pulled up Google and tried to see if there was any odd history about his house. And sure enough, he found this old newspaper article that seemed to be from the 80s, and the hair stood up on his arm when he saw a picture of his house on the very front of it. The article spoke about a woman who had recently lost her husband, and one night when she was walking home alone, she was kidnapped, and she was taken to the house that he currently lived in and was kept in a cage in the basement. Unfortunately, it was not a very good ending for her. She wasn't found until months later. She had died of starvation. So it seemed like her spirit was trying to reach out to him in any way that it could, and her words took form in her Wordle game. I mean, they say that 3 a.m. is the hour where the dead and the living are closer together. So if you ever notice that your Wordle game is constantly giving you really mysterious and eerie words, it might mean something. It might. I feel like now everyone's gonna be afraid to play Wordle. I'm so sorry. But honestly, do you want to know what's creepy? I did research for this video yesterday, and because I play the game at 12 a.m., so technically today, the word that I got, and by the way, this is a spoiler if you haven't played Wordle yet today, so just pause this video if you don't want to hear the word. But today's word was scary. Are you kidding me? Isn't that a really weird coincidence? Because the second I got it, I literally got goosebumps. So maybe this story is kind of onto something, or maybe now my phone is glitched. There's a story about a stay-at-home mom that had 2 small children, and for the past 2 years, ever since they moved into their new house, she constantly sensed a presence around her. Now, strange things would happen mainly when her husband was away at work, and when he came home and she would try to tell him about all the creepy things that were happening to her, and he would say that stress was causing her to see and hear weird things. She would see shadows at the side of her eyes in different rooms, or sometimes something tall and dark would just quickly run past her before she had a chance to really see what it was. The stove would randomly turn on, the sinks would turn on when she wasn't there, and sometimes she would catch her two little children staring in the same direction with their eyes wide open as if they were looking at something terrifying that she couldn't see. And like I said, the most frustrating part about this all is that no one believed her, not even her husband. People just thought she was either making it up for attention or that she was just so overwhelmed by looking after her family day after day that stress was messing with her head and she was seeing things that weren't there. Now, this is what is so bizarre about this whole story, and this is where Amazon comes in. The Amazon app basically proved to her husband that she wasn't lying, and I'll tell you how. One day she got a notification for a delivery, and when she opened the app, the delivery man had taken a photo of the packages on her porch like they usually would, but this time the photo was taken at a farther view of her house, so you could see her porch with the packages on it, but then you could see like the first half of her house, so the bottom floor. And she was just about to put her phone away when she noticed something strange. In one of the bottom floor windows of her house was a tall black figure, and it was just standing there behind the glass. And she felt this shiver go down her arm because she just knew that that was the thing that had been tormenting her for years. So when her husband got home, she immediately showed him, and she could tell it spooked him a little, but he just told her that it was probably her that was caught in the photograph. And because the delivery guy took the photo so quickly, it made her look like a blurry dark figure. He also said it could have just been a glitch on the app, so once again, not really believing her, but he did admit that it was creepy. At this point, she was so frustrated and began ordering a bunch of Amazon items in hopes that she would get more photos showing the exact same figure. And over the next couple weeks, all of the delivery photos were super close up of the packages, so it didn't really show any windows of her house so she could prove this thing was there. But finally, at the end of the month, the Amazon driver took the photo on the pathway in front of her house. So this time, both the bottom floor windows and the top floor windows were visible in this delivery photo. And you would not believe what she saw. In fact, she was so scared by this photo that she dropped her phone to the floor. In every single window of her house, there was some form of tall, warped, dark shadow just staring out of it. She could probably count about 6 of them appearing in the photo. And she knew that there was no way that her husband could explain that one away. And she also knew that they needed to get out of their house immediately. And that is how the story ends. I don't know if it's a real story or a creepypasta, but it's definitely creepy. So while she thought there was maybe one thing bothering her in her house, they had multiple spirits lingering there. And I don't know why they almost showed up in Amazon photos, but that is pretty creepy. So that is something they thought was a glitch, but ended up being real. And by the way, if your husband doesn't believe you and blames everything you're experiencing on stress, get him out of here. Get him out of here. Okay, next we have something called the doppelganger glitch. I found this creepypasta talking about a legend where if you go onto the Amazon app at midnight and type your own name in the search bar, a listing will come up with a photo of your face and there'll be no price attached. There will just be a button that says add to cart. Apparently, within the coming week when you get your delivery, you'll wish you had never bought another version of yourself. So there was this guy who assumed this legend to just be completely fake. So one night when him and his friends were hanging out, they decided to try out this legend just as a joke. So when midnight hit, he pulled out his phone and opened the Amazon app, and everyone gathered around him to watch as he typed his own name in the search bar. At first, he just saw a bunch of items that started off with the first letter of his name, but when he scrolled down, his heart stopped when he saw a photo of himself. It was a photo that he had never put on any of his social media, and in fact, he never even remembered taking this photo. His friends around him were laughing because they thought that he just set this up as some sort of prank, but little did they know he was also extremely surprised. Well, because he didn't want to look afraid in front of all of his friends, he added himself to his cart, which is super weird to say. And it said that he would receive his delivery in 2 days. Those next 2 days were brutal for him. He was anxious and constantly waiting for the sound of his doorbell wondering what would show up. Was it all just a joke to scare people? Would he actually be greeting himself in the doorway? On the second day, nighttime rolled around and he never got a knock on his door, so he finally felt super relieved. But just as he walked over to close the curtains in his bedroom before he went to sleep, he saw a figure standing in the darkness of his backyard. And at first he thought that maybe his dad was outside letting the dog out to pee. But when he squinted his eyes to get a closer look, staring back at him was his own face. And yeah, that's how that ended. Honestly, I wish there was more because I want to see what happens next. Is his own self doppelganger thing going to be nice to him? Is he trying to take over his life, which is what most of them do? Is he like evil? I want to know more. Back in 2021, thousands of people around the world were reporting this strange glitch happening to them on Spotify. It seemed as though when they were not using the app, the music would randomly start playing on its own. So they may have been working, in a meeting, at a restaurant, reading a book, just hanging out relaxing, and all of a sudden music would start blaring from their phone. And while there isn't anything too scary about this, it's still a startling thing to happen, and it kind of catches you off guard. I did, however, read a very creepy experience from someone. It's about a man who was lying in bed because he was struggling to sleep at night. Hours were going by where he was just lying there staring at the ceiling. We've all had those nights where we just cannot sleep. Well, as he was lying in his bed, he began to hear the faint sound of music. At first, he thought that maybe it was coming from outside, like maybe his neighbors were having a party and he could hear the music in the distance. But as he listened closer, he realized that it was coming from his phone. And what was so weird is that when he opened his phone, saw that it was Spotify, he also saw that it was playing a song called Can't Sleep by Ghostwriter, which is such a creepy coincidence. I've never heard that song before, but the fact that the title is exactly what he's experiencing is so weird. I just could not imagine this happening to me, especially late at night when we're already sort of off guard and creeped out. So yeah, this was a real experience. So comment down below if you, back in 2021, had this glitch happen to you. Thankfully, I did not. Thankfully. Okay, so then we have the Spotify creepypasta, which may or may not be true, and this one is called Don't Use Shuffle. And when I heard this creepypasta, it just ruined me, because whenever I'm on Spotify, I'm always using Shuffle. That's like the first thing I do. There's a very creepy rumor about an entity that has been following people after they hear a certain song on Spotify. And here's the kicker, like I said, you can only stumble across this particular song if you're using the shuffle function on Spotify. I feel like I will no longer be doing this after making this video. They say that at first, it sounds as if a human is trying to mimic white noise, almost like a high-pitched whine. So when people hear this, they think it's a weird instrumental song or some sort of experimental music. But when you go and look at the title of what's playing, it's just a random string of letters that don't really make any sense. And it's the same with the name of the artist. So it's all sort of just gibberish. And whenever I've heard of like song glitches or any sort of creepypasta with music, a lot of the time it is just a random string of numbers and letters. So if you go and you click on the artist profile, it shows that they only have 3 songs available. If you play one of the other songs, apparently it's this high-pitched kind of manic laughter. It's incredibly loud. Even if your volume was low, it's suddenly so loud. And if you play the 3rd song, it's apparently this sort of low, whispery, sinister breathing. And usually after people find this artist playlist, they're really creeped out, but they just forget about it after. The problem is, it's impossible for them to forget about it for too long because the song comes back to haunt them, literally. Later on, while they're going about their daily life, whether it's walking home from school or making dinner or getting groceries or just sitting in their room, they will begin to hear that laughter. At first, they assume it's coming from their phone because they know they heard that weird music earlier. They think that maybe it turned on again by accident. But as soon as they pick up their phone, they'll realize that it's not coming from there, but instead it's coming directly behind them. People describe the creature they see next as a tall, spindly entity with a deep chasm of emptiness where its face should be, and most people run after seeing it, which makes sense. But here's the problem. The reason why this thing has a dark chasm instead of a face is because it can morph morph itself into people that you know and love. I read one story about a boy that was terrified and hiding in his room, and suddenly he heard his mother knocking at the door. He felt this sudden relief come over him, like he was finally safe, everything was gonna be okay. So he opened the door and he did see his mother standing there, but she had this unnaturally large smile on her face, and then it slowly changed back into that dark chasm of emptiness. So he knew right away it was the creature just tricking him. So be very careful next time your Spotify playlist is on shuffle, because apparently once you hear this creature's song, you'll never be able to escape it. And that is how this creepypasta ends. So yeah, I do think it's more on the scary story side instead of the real side, but there have been a few times on my phone I have come across a very strange song on Spotify. Actually, a few months ago, I did a whole vlog video on it. I'll link it down below. Here's the thumbnail for it. But I do have like an in-person store for all of my merch and all of the products that I sell, and we have like a store playlist. And one day, this random, creepy, very evil actually song came on the playlist with no one putting it on there, no one pressing play, and it was so creepy. So I talk about that more on the vlog channel, so check that out if you have not yet. But yeah, I hope I don't come across this scary laughter or high-pitched noises, and I hope that you don't either.
Fly KLM. I can easily connect from Amsterdam to loads of destinations around the world, with convenient connections and flight times that suit me. It's just easy.
You've been playing Poppy Playtime wrong, and this is why. So I bought the official Poppy Playtime in-universe guide, the new Employees Orientation Handbook, and I'm going to beat the first 3 chapters of Poppy Playtime exactly how this book and Playtime Co. as a whole recommends. Each chapter I'll be given a set number of tasks for me to complete, and if I can't complete all of the tasks in that chapter, I fail and lose the ability to move on. But Poppy Playtime has gotten longer every chapter, the first one being roughly only 20 minutes, the second one almost reaching an hour and a half, and the third and final sometimes taking upwards of 3 hours, meaning the amount of tasks that I'm required to complete will increase with every game. But let's not worry about that yet, because we're not in uniform yet. Also, the reason I haven't included the recent chapter 4 of Poppy Playtime is actually because it didn't exist when this book was made. So as you can probably imagine, there is absolutely nothing about it in the guide. But now that everything's been explained, we can finally get into chapter 1. And by using the first tip left by PW, who is widely assumed by the community to be the player, we can already knock off our first task of the video. And... hey! We got the blue hand! That's our first of what? How many is there? There's like 5, I think. And after struggling to get over the turnstiles, we opened the door to the lobby, and there he was. Oh my god! It's you! It's you! You see yourself? I'm just gonna keep playing. Welcome to the lobby. This is where all employees go before venturing off to their designated workspace inside the factory. But today, I'm going to be completing Huggy Wuggy's quality tester checklist. You see, the notebook states that all Huggies must go through this checklist before being accepted and placed inside the signature packaging. So who better to do it on than this guy? Yeah, they look like they're there. They look like they'll work. I mean, it's not exactly sticking talking to him, but they work. I can't really. Okay. I think they. Hold on. Let me get you. Yeah, I think so. Pretend this isn't definitely a knockoff. Equal length. Yeah, no, they are. They are. Like, because if you move that down, if you move that arm down, that's going to be the same as the leg. Yeah, no, it's. And you know what? Let's test it with this guy too. Yeah, no, okay, cool. Right, come on. You're making this harder than it has to be. Woo, okay. Well, we completed the quality tester checklist. Huggy, I can see you. Bro, I can see you. You don't. This dude's so weird. Do you want to know a fun fact? During the conveyor room section, if you look closely at the vents on the right wall, you'll be able to see a smiling Huggy Wuggy staring right back at you. I genuinely have no idea how he fits inside this. But funnily enough, this frightening Easter egg was actually missed by many YouTubers during their playthroughs of the game. So for the third task of Chapter 1, I'm required to notice Huggy's hiding spot if I want to carry on with the challenge. Oh my god. Oh my god, that's terrifying! I've never seen that in this game. Oh, that's you get an uneasy feeling from that. Give me my second hand, please. Oh, I got it. Hey! We got the right hand or the red hand. That's two of them. We got two hands. I'm a whole ass idiot. Guys, I got it. Oh, I'm moving. The Make a Friend room is where kids can come and design their very own Catbee toy.
All Catbee products created in Make a Friend must be paid for before leaving the factory. Playtime Co. are not liable for those that fail to follow these rules.
However, since that we're an employee, we need to also make sure that we're following the company's regulations. The notebook insists that when working inside this room, and particularly on the floating walkways, that we must take care. It's a lot easier that...
It's a lot easier than you'd think to fall off the Make a Friend walkways with your frat-packed head wrapped around one of our trusty electrical pylons. Not that that has happened before.
I did it! Did I do that the right way? Hey, Playtime Co, anything goes, you know? Like, if something works, it works. Oh, alright, never mind. I didn't fall, that's what matters, okay? Oh, the tape! Can I grab that? Let's play the tape. Nice! Look at that! Give me that, and let's go put it on this. And after throwing our Catbee product onto the... Wait, what is this? Hold on, does anyone actually know what this is? And why does the hallway door only open when we place a Catbee on it? Does it have to be a Catbee? I mean, surely they make more toys than just that. And can this Catbee be used multiple times? Like, what if it can't? You're telling me every time employees come into work, they have to pre-make a new Catbee just to be able to walk down this hallway? Do you understand how impractical that is? I mean, this company has existed since 1930, and Make a Friend was built just 30 years later in 1960. Meaning if the implications on when Poppy Playtime takes place are true... Wait. Hold on, when does Poppy Playtime take place? 5 years, maybe 10. What? Poppy Playtime takes place in the early 2000s. Which would mean that they have been doing this for 40 years at the very least. And assuming that a new Catbee had to be created every day for this task, and Playtime Co aren't a big fan of employees taking time off work, we can make out that they probably made upwards of 15,000 Catbees just to open a door. Does anyone else hear footsteps? Ah! Dude. He's so big. Whoa. He's getting faster. He's getting faster. Let's go. Okay. Okay, so do we climb up or where do we... Oh, then the thing opens. Okay, I remember. Alright, we can drop down here. Go through here. It opens up. Okay. Wrong way. Oh my god! Oh god! I forgot how terrifying this was. Please don't get me. Please don't get me. I'm down. Alright, and go! Yes! See ya, Huggy! And so with Huggy dead, I think, all that was left to do was to watch the final tape of the chapter. Give me something relaxing to watch. Alright. And after walking down the ominous hallway, we opened Poppy's case. Hey, Poppy! Yeah, yes I did. And after Poppy decided to turn the lights back on, we walked through the door placed in the previous corridor and immediately began chapter 2. And what is that? Oh yeah, I have a Discord server, and you can join it today by clicking the link in the description. You join the server as a lonely member, and after a message or two, you'll rank up to Ghost Place Enjoyer. And over time, if you talk enough in the server, you'll reach the highest rank, Ghost Place Supreme. But if that's not your thing, you can also check out the multiple other channels in the server and find something that fits you a little better. And when I drop new content or make big announcements, the people who join this server will hear about it before anyone. So if you want to become part of the exclusive club and maybe even get to see sneak peeks of what I've got coming, join Ghost Place today. Alright, let's move on. This chapter begins by showing us Elliot Ludwig's office, which is stated in the book as the place that he spent 90% of his time. And funnily enough, our first task of chapter 2 also takes place inside this room. Although, it's a little weird. If you're cleaning staff, do not move anything in this office. Just clean around it and keep the dust off. Everything is to be kept as Mr. Ludwig left it. Also, since chapter 2 is roughly an hour longer than chapter 1, instead of only completing 5 tasks to move on, we have to complete 10. I feel like this might be a struggle. We can't actually take this awesome looking trophy. We can't have a look at this blueprint. We can't watch the tape, but sometimes I'm actually kind of happy about that. Poppy! Poppy? Whoa! 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 Yeah, I'm trying. Oh! Oh, hey! Wait, she just got kidnapped! So after Poppy was... well, I actually don't know how to describe what just happened. And while I complained about Playtime Co's blatant favoritism for the higher-ups, it's these big corporations, man. They're ruining what, you know... I don't even know what I'm complaining about anymore. Poppy was actually having her mouth webbed up by Chapter 2's very own villain. Is that who I think it is? Oh, she took my hand. Hey, give me back. She can talk. Why is she talking for? Alright. Okay, relax. This is the game station, and as the name suggests, this huge room contains separate entrances that lead to 3 super fun, crazy cool games that definitely won't try to kill you every single time. I don't know who said that, it's not true, they have plans. So after pulling down the first lever and listening to Stella's speech, we were headed off to our first game. But what's that? I'm hearing there's a blockage on the path to musical memory. I mean, it's not like we can just climb over this small gap, right? Oh, nothing too interesting happening inside the molding room. Like, Mommy Longlegs doesn't just come bursting through a wall or anything. For the majority, it is just a bare bones puzzle. However, that aside, this room isn't entirely pointless. We got the green hand! Let's go! Already? Okay. This music again. Oh my god. Oh. Oh, it's beautiful. I need to kill this thing. No, stop! You're coming to the molding room, but musical memory is, at its core, a memory game. It forces the player to remember patterns of colours in quick succession, which increase and get faster after every round. And the colours that appear in each round are actually given away inside the notebook. I mean, it literally tells you exactly how to beat this game. Since, in Universe, this book was handed to new employees, so they knew the basics. Also, something I find pretty funny, on the same page, Playtime Co. quite literally encourages employees to stop kids from helping one another, as it will damage their... research or something? However, for our second task of chapter 2, we have to go in blind. That's right, Ghost Place over here has no idea what the pattern of colours is. And trust me, it changes everything. Round 4. Blue, J, hearts, white. Why is it? Blue, J, heart, white, heart. What is it? There's no way this is normal. Bunzo, please. Okay, thank you, Mommy. I can't keep saying. What? Also, did you know you can actually hear Mommy Longlegs beating up Bunzo after he failed to kill you in the previous game? Rest in peace, Bunzo, man. You didn't deserve that. But after leaving musical memory and walking through the vents, we were inside the rejected room. And you know what? This might be my favorite area in all of Poppy Playtime. From its many secrets, Easter eggs, and references to the lore, you can walk around this room for hours and still find something new. But today, we're going to be searching for all 7 rejected toys inside the rejected room. What is that? Also, Playtime Co. actually included reasons for why these toys were rejected, and they can all be found inside this room. For example, our first rejected toy, Kick Me Paul. Reason for rejection: nobody likes him. Is that actually why he was rejected? I mean, he looks like a cool guy. Oh, he was laughed out of the presentation when he was revealed? Hey, you know, that happens. You know, we gotta move on. I'm sorry, man. The second one is Sir Hoops a lot. Where is he? Oh, he's here. he looks like a bear I know of. So there's Sir Poops a lot. What does it say? Whoever's idea this was should feel ashamed. I mean, you guys gave him packaging. Up next is Daisy. Oh, is this it? Is this Daisy? I don't like that face though. Something about that face. I don't like it. Number 4. Owen the Oven. Is that him up there? Is that you, Owen? So this is Owen the Oven. That's 4 out of 6, I think. Number 5. There's no way this is real. Pet Stone. There's a pet stone around here. Oh, is it this? What is that? Are you out of ideas? Literally, what is this? I'm sorry, this is awful. Okay, last one. What's the last one? Barrel of Huggies. I swear I've seen this. Because I've seen these guys. Are these guys part of it? Are you guys from a Barrel of Huggies? Oh, it's it. Okay, cool. It was rejected for a choking hazard. Children tried to eat from the barrel thinking it was candy. I mean, that's kind of the parents' fault, no? I feel like they could have gone through, and if a baby eats them, then, you know, that's, you know, we win some, we lose some. Having completed our task, we now needed to move the claw over to the massive bronze statue, which is blocking the door, and move him. Why do we have to do this? And after walking around this labyrinth they called the path back to the game station, we were ready to take on the second game. Oh, wait. What is it called again? It's something to do with can't pinpoint what it's called. Oh, right, yeah. Whack a Woogie to some people is considered the hardest of the 3 games we play in Chapter 2. And I'm here to make it even harder for some reason. And the way I'm going to go about doing that is by using our 4th task. Whack at least 30 in Whack. If I get jump scared or just can't reach 30, I have to restart the game and try again from 0. The only thing saving me with this task is the fact that I was actually having problems when trying to film Chapter 2. So I chose to play the game on the Epic Games launcher instead of Steam. And in the Steam version, when you enter Whack a Woogie, Mob actually steals your flashlight as an aim to make the game a little bit harder. But in the Epic Games version, they just don't. And you can use it all throughout the second game. So, yeah. Maybe I should have just kept this to myself. Go away. Go away. That's 2. Go away. Thank you. That's 3. 8. Oh my god. 11. Come on. 12. 16. Oh my god. 18. 20. Please. 21. 23. 24. 25. 26. Oh no. This is your fault.
Meet again at last.
You've been playing Poppy Playtime. FNAF knockoffs somehow got worse. You've been playing Security Breach wrong.
Security Breach is a glitchy game. And Security Breach is quite a buggy game. Since it being this way gives players a lot of, let's say, flexibility, creators have been challenging themselves to beat the game under increasingly outrageous restrictions ever since the game came out. So this got me thinking, rather than not using a mechanic or an item while beating the game, what if I just never used an entire body part? Would getting the true ending of the game be possible if Gregory couldn't move his head? This is by far the most complicated challenge run I have ever attempted, having to use every piece of obscure knowledge, every bit of expert advice, and every glitch I could squeeze out of the game to make it work. Good God! This is Five Nights at Freddy's Security Breach with no neck. Okay, let's get going. Let me explain what we are doing when I hit New Game. We are completing Five Nights at Freddy's Security Breach without moving the camera at all. We are not going to touch the mouse. We are not going to touch the right analog stick. However, if the game moves our camera, that's fair game.
There you are.
For example, Freddy popped us out and talked to us right now.
Scanning complete.
This leaves us looking up at like a 45-degree angle in a very awkward way indeed. So now we're basically stuck like this. We cannot move our camera from this position. The game has decided that this is our camera angle. While that is the long and short of it, before the run gets properly started, here's a more detailed look at the rules. If you're curious, feel free to pause and read the nitty-gritty details, but the general idea is pretty intuitive. We cannot move the camera ourselves on any character we control, and if the game moves our camera for us, we just have to live with that and continue to play the game at that angle now. So, that does sound awkward and a bit annoying, sure, but how difficult is it really?